I used to think that the worst thing in life was being ignored. I was wrong. The worst thing is being noticed only when someone needs a villain. Growing up, I was always the responsible one, the steady, predictable older sister who could be counted on but never celebrated. My younger sister, Olivia, was the golden child, the loud, charming, and dramatic center of every family gathering. If she wasn't performing a dance recital in the living room, she was crying over some perceived slight, ensuring she was always the main character. And me? I was the background. I never minded much. I was never one for theatrics, and I preferred my quiet corner with a book or a new project. But it became painfully clear as we grew older that my role in Olivia's world wasn't just as a supporting character, I was the contrast that made her shine. When Olivia got engaged, my parents threw her a massive celebration, complete with a custom-made cake, floral arrangements, and a whole rented-out venue. When I graduated with honors, I got a lukewarm congratulations and a store-bought card. When Olivia announced she was pregnant, my parents treated it like the second coming. Mom cried, Dad puffed out his chest with pride, and Olivia basked in the attention like a queen finally ascending her throne. It was the kind of reaction I never saw for anything I accomplished, not when I bought my first home, not when I got promoted, not when I single-handedly took care of our aging great-aunt Eleanor in her final years. But I kept my mouth shut. That's what I was supposed to do. Smile, nod, and be happy for Olivia. The real trouble started when she began planning her baby shower. It wasn't just a shower, it was a full-blown event. Invitations were sent out in elegant gold-trimmed envelopes, a luxury venue was booked, and there was even a professional photographer for the maternity goddess photo shoot. Olivia's Pinterest board became her gospel, and she expected everyone around her to worship accordingly. I was happy for her, I really was, but the way she and my mother hounded me about the shower was exhausting. "You're not really into the whole baby thing, are you?" Olivia teased one afternoon while I was helping her assemble overpriced party favors. "It's just not something I get excited about, I guess," I admitted with a small shrug. The look she gave me could have frozen fire. "Oh, so you don't care about my baby?" I sighed. "That's not what I meant, Olivia. I'm happy for you, but I don't think everyone has to be obsessed with this shower. Big mistake." The next day, my mother called me, her voice tight. "Rachel, I don't know what's going on with you, but Olivia is really hurt. She says you've been acting jealous about the baby shower." "What?" I nearly dropped my coffee. "That's not true." "She told me you said the shower was unnecessary and that you don't care about the baby." I couldn't believe it. I had been nothing but supportive, sure. Maybe not as fawning as everyone else, but I had never said anything cruel. "She twisted my words," I said, my voice flat. "Well," my mother sighed, as if the entire situation was exhausting for her, "maybe you should be a little more careful with how you speak. This is a very important time for Olivia." That's when it hit me. It didn't matter what I said or what I did. Olivia's feelings would always come first. Then came the final blow. Olivia sent a long, dramatic message to our extended family group chat. "After much thought, I've decided it's best if Rachel doesn't attend the baby shower. This is a joyous time, and I don't need negativity around me. She can't stand to see me happy, and honestly, I just want to be surrounded by love. I hope you all understand." I stared at my phone, rereading the words over and over. She had banished me. The messages poured in immediately. "You deserve all the happiness, Liv. Don't let anyone bring you down. You're so strong for setting boundaries. Rachel, why would you ruin this for your sister?" I felt sick. My own family cousins, aunts, even some of my parents' friends, had all turned against me in an instant just because Olivia had declared me the villain. And that's when I knew. Olivia wanted to play this game? Fine. Let's play. She thought she had all the power, but she had no idea what I was keeping in my back pocket. I just had to wait for the right moment to reveal it. The day of Olivia's baby shower arrived like a royal coronation. My absence, I imagined, was just another element of her carefully curated victim narrative, the jealous, bitter sister who couldn't be happy for her. I spent the morning scrolling through social media, watching as guests posted pictures of the extravagant event. A massive floral arch at the entrance, a three-tiered cake with gold detailing, tables adorned with tiny, personalized gift boxes, and of course Olivia herself standing in the center like a queen in a flowy, blush-colored maternity dress, one hand cradling her belly, the other gesturing as she delivered what I could only assume was a speech about gratitude and family. I nearly laughed at the irony. Family. Then I saw the captions. "Surround yourself with love, not jealousy. You deserve the best, Olivia. You are glowing, Mama. Some people just can't handle another woman's happiness. No negativity here. Just a perfect day for a perfect mom to be." The comments underneath were worse. Some people I barely knew were chiming in, making digs about toxic energy, and people who can't be happy for others. I saw my name pop up in the responses, as Olivia subtly encouraged the narrative without outright confirming anything. I wasn't just uninvited, I was a villain, an active threat to Olivia's joy. The worst part? No one questioned it. I put my phone down, my hands trembling with rage. It wasn't enough for Olivia to push me out. She wanted everyone to see me as less. I had spent years swallowing my pride, telling myself it wasn't worth fighting back, that it was easier to let Olivia have the spotlight, easier to let my parents dote on her, easier to accept my role as the sister who simply didn't shine as bright. But something inside me snapped. I thought back to Great Aunt Eleanor, the one person who had ever truly seen me for who I was. She had been sharp, observant, and never one to fall for theatrics. "You remind me of myself," she once told me. "You don't need to be loud to be powerful." When Eleanor passed, she left me something Olivia and my parents had never cared to ask about because they assumed it was meaningless. I walked over to my desk and pulled out the envelope I had tucked away months ago. The weight of the papers inside felt heavier than before. My great aunt had left me a substantial inheritance, not just a small sum, not just a sentimental trinket, a life-changing amount, enough to buy a home outright, start a business, live without worrying about paycheck-to-paycheck survival. I had been sitting on this knowledge, unsure of how to use it, keeping it private because, unlike Olivia, I didn't need an audience to validate my success. But now, I had every reason to make it known. I logged onto social media, my heart pounding in my chest, and typed a simple message. It's always interesting to see who assumes you have nothing, just because you don't brag about everything you have. I hit post and watched as the likes started rolling in. And then I made a call. There was an estate agent I had been in touch with. A stunning property had caught my eye weeks ago, something that I had been considering but hadn't yet committed to. Until now. "Yes, I'd like to move forward with the purchase," I told her, my voice steady. I wasn't going to fight Olivia the way she expected me to. I wasn't going to argue, beg, or demand an apology. I was going to show all of them exactly what happens when you underestimate someone, and I would do it without ever needing their approval. The days following Olivia's baby shower were eerily silent, at least from her, but the whispers started almost immediately. My vague social media post had done its job. People were curious. Olivia may have successfully painted me as a bitter, envious sister, but now the narrative had a crack, and in our family, curiosity spread like wildfire. Aunt Linda was the first to message me. "What was that post about, sweetheart? Are you okay?" A cousin I hadn't spoken to in months suddenly popped up in my DMs. "Hey, heard something interesting about you today. Hit me up." I ignored them all. Let them wonder. Let them speculate. Olivia had fed them a version of events that suited her, so I figured it was only fair they got a little taste of my side, without me even saying a word. But the real fun started when I signed the papers for my new home. I kept the purchase under wraps at first, savoring the knowledge that I was doing something monumental for myself. Unlike Olivia, I didn't need an audience to validate my choices. I wasn't buying the house to prove anything. I was doing it because I could, because I deserved it, because I had earned it. Still, the reveal needed to be perfect. I waited a week before dropping the first hint. Another carefully worded post. Starting a new chapter. Excited for what's ahead. No details. No location tags. Just a little breadcrumb to keep the speculation alive. And it worked. I saw my relatives exchanging comments. My cousin Jenna tagging Olivia with a, "Did you see this?" And Olivia replying with nothing but a, "The silence from my sister was delicious." Then came the day of the housewarming. I hadn't planned on inviting family. Honestly, I had imagined my first evening in my new home being a quiet celebration, just me, a glass of wine, and the satisfaction of knowing I had done something incredible without anyone's help. But Olivia forced my hand. It started with a phone call from my mother. "Rachel, I heard you bought a house?" She said it like it was a question, but I knew better. She wasn't asking, she was confirming. Someone had spilled the news, and I had a feeling I knew exactly who. "Yes," I said simply. A pause. "And when were you going to tell your family?" Ah, there it was. The guilt trip. I debated my response for a second before settling on something neutral. "I've been busy. It all happened pretty fast." "Olivia's hurt, you know," Mom said, lowering her voice as if we were discussing a national tragedy. "She thinks you're trying to overshadow her." I laughed. I actually laughed. "Mom, I bought a house. I didn't steal her pregnancy." Mom huffed, clearly unamused. "You know how she gets. She just had her baby, and now she feels like people are paying more attention to you instead of—" I cut her off. "That's not my problem." Another pause. "I just think it would be nice if you invited your family over," she pressed, her tone almost pleading. "Show them your new place. Let everyone be happy for you." Happy for me? Now they wanted to be happy for me? I should have said no. Should have told her that the same people who had ridiculed me just weeks ago didn't deserve a place in my new home. But then I thought about Olivia, about how she had crafted this entire narrative where I was nothing but a bitter, jealous afterthought in her story. And I realized something. Letting them come over wasn't giving in. It was setting the stage. "Fine," I said, my lips curling into a slow smile. "I'll host a little gathering this weekend. Tell everyone." Mom sounded relieved. "Oh, good. I'll let Olivia know. She wasn't sure if she should reach out, but I know she wants to be there." Of course she did. The day of the gathering, I made sure everything was perfect. The house was staged beautifully, not in an over-the-top way, but in a way that screamed effortless success. The kitchen gleamed, the furniture was tasteful, and the backyard, my backyard, was landscaped just enough to impress without trying too hard. When my family arrived, their reactions were delicious. "Oh, wow, Rachel," Aunt Linda gushed as she stepped inside. This is gorgeous." My cousin Jenna gave a low whistle. "I didn't even know you were looking for a house. How did you pull this off?" I just smiled. Let's just say I made some smart investments. And then Olivia arrived. She walked in, baby carrier in one hand, my mother trailing behind her like an obedient servant. She looked around, her eyes scanning everything with thinly veiled shock. "You didn't tell me it was this nice?" she said, her voice a little too tight. I shrugged. "Guess I didn't think you'd care." She flinched just for a second before forcing a smile. "Oh, don't be silly. Wow, I had no idea you were doing so well." And there it was, the undercurrent of jealousy she had tried so hard to pin on me. The rest of the afternoon was tense. Olivia kept trying to redirect attention back to herself, talking about the baby, how exhausting motherhood was, how hard things had been financially. I let her talk. I let her squirm. Then, as everyone was gathered in the living room, sipping wine and marveling at my success, Jenna asked the question I had been waiting for. "So, Rachel, what's next for you?" I set down my glass, letting the moment hang before I spoke. "Well," I said, glancing at Olivia just long enough to watch her stiffen, I've been thinking about taking some time off work, maybe even traveling for a bit. The inheritance from Aunt Eleanor gives me a lot of flexibility." The room went silent. I could feel Olivia's reaction before I even looked at her. The sharp intake of breath, the barely concealed shock, the way her fingers tightened around her wine glass. Mom blinked. "Inheritance?" I nodded, all innocence. "Oh, I guess I never mentioned it. Aunt Eleanor left me a substantial amount when she passed, enough to buy this house outright and still have plenty left to invest. I just never felt the need to talk about it." Olivia snapped. "Are you kidding me?" she blurted, eyes wide. "You had all this money and didn't say anything?" I tilted my head. "Should I have? It's not like anyone was particularly interested in my life before." She turned to Mom, her face burning. "Did you know about this?" Mom shook her head, still processing. I took another sip of wine, letting Olivia's outrage simmer in the air. It was delicious. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't just Olivia's background character. I was the main event. The silence that followed my announcement was thick, suffocating the room in a way that was almost comical. It took everything in me not to laugh at the way Olivia's jaw tightened, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched her wine glass. She was livid. I had spent years being cast aside, overlooked, and dismissed. And now, in one simple moment, I had managed to flip the entire narrative. Olivia had been expecting the usual me shrinking, fading into the background while she soaked up the attention. But instead, I had blindsided her. I had stolen the spotlight without even trying. And she couldn't stand it. "You're serious?" Olivia's voice was sharp, her eyes darting between me and our mother, who was still sitting there, stunned. I shrugged, swirling my wine lazily. "Of course! Aunt Eleanor always believed in me, you know? She knew I was independent, that I'd use the money wisely." The unspoken and not wasted on performative nonsense lingered in the air, thick with implication. Olivia's mouth opened and closed, as if she was grasping for a response but couldn't quite find the right words. Finally, she let out a short, humorless laugh. "So, let me get this straight," she said, her voice laced with something dangerous. "You've had access to a fortune this whole time and you just sat on it, while the rest of us have been struggling?" "Struggling? Her?" I raised an eyebrow. "Struggling with what, Olivia? Your luxury baby shower? The designer nursery? The constant gifts from Mom and Dad? What exactly have you sacrificed?" Her face reddened. "You knew I was worried about money after the baby. You knew things were tight for Mark and me." Ah, there it was. I set my glass down, leaning back against the couch. "I did know," I admitted. "I also knew you had no problem using me when it suited you, painting me as a jealous, bitter sister, so you could play the victim." Mom sucked in a breath. "Rachel?" I ignored her, my focus solely on Olivia. "Tell me, Olivia," I continued, my voice steady. "Did it feel good, kicking me out of your baby shower? Spreading rumors about me? Did it make you happy?" Her expression faltered, guilt flashing across her face before she masked it with defiance. "I was protecting my peace," she snapped. "You weren't supportive? You didn't care." I laughed, shaking my head. "I didn't care. Olivia, I've spent my entire life being supportive, sitting in the shadows while you soaked up every ounce of attention. You expect people to bow down to you, and when they don't, you paint them as villains." She glared at me, her grip tightening around her wine glass like she wanted to throw it. "You're selfish," she hissed. There it was, the final card she had left to play. I smiled. "No, Olivia, I'm done." The weight of those words settled in the room. For the first time in my life, I wasn't bending. I wasn't giving in to the endless cycle of guilt and manipulation. I was standing firm, refusing to let her twist the truth into something that suited her. And the best part? She knew she had lost. Mom cleared her throat, shifting uncomfortably. "Rachel, sweetheart, maybe we should all calm down." "No!" I cut her off, my eyes still locked onto Olivia's. "I'm not calming down. I see everything clearly now. Olivia hates that I'm happy, that I don't need her approval or yours. Mom's mouth opened as if to argue, but for once she had nothing to say. Olivia let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. So what now, Rachel? You just get to act like you're better than everyone? I tilted my head. I don't have to act like anything. You made sure everyone believed I was jealous of you, but now everyone knows who the real jealous one is. Her face twisted with rage. You think money makes you better than me? I leaned forward, my voice deadly soft. I think not needing validation makes me better than you. A thick, uncomfortable silence fell over the room. One by one, I watched the realization settle on the faces of the people who had so easily taken Olivia's side. The ones who had dismissed me, ridiculed me, believed her over me. They had all been so sure that I was the bitter, envious sister, the forgotten one, the shadow to Olivia's spotlight. But now they saw the truth. And Olivia? She saw it too. She stood abruptly, the baby in her arms, stirring slightly from the sudden movement. You know what? Screw you, Rachel. I don't need this. I don't need you. I smirked, watching as she stormed toward the door. You never did, remember? She faltered for just a second, just enough for me to know that my words had hit exactly where they needed to. And then she was gone. I exhaled slowly, letting the moment settle. Mom shifted uncomfortably, looking between me and the door where Olivia had disappeared. Rachel, I think she just needs time. I smiled. Take all the time you want. I have plenty to spare. And for the first time in my life, I meant it. The silence Olivia left behind was almost deafening. For the first time in years, I watched my mother struggle for words. She was so used to fixing things, smoothing over Olivia's messes, convincing me to be the bigger person. But this time, there was nothing to fix. I wasn't budging. I could see the calculations running through her mind, the slow realization that the daughter she had spent a lifetime overlooking wasn't waiting for her approval anymore. Rachel, she tried again, her voice softer this time. You know she's just upset. She's been through a lot with the baby and... I let out a quiet laugh, shaking my head. Mom, stop! She blinked at me. Just stop, I repeated. We're not doing this. We're not making excuses for her anymore. Olivia humiliated me. She used me as a scapegoat. And when it turned out that I wasn't the bitter, jealous one, she lost it. Mom let out a small sigh, rubbing her temple. She didn't mean to hurt you. I tilted my head. And yet she did. Over and over. And you let her. That hit the mark. Mom flinched like I had physically struck her. And for once, she didn't try to argue. Instead, she just stood there, looking suddenly tired. Like she was seeing things clearly for the first time, but didn't quite know how to fix them. Dad, who had been silent through the entire exchange, finally cleared his throat. I think we should go. Mom looked at him, her face unreadable, before nodding slowly. And just like that, the great confrontation ended with my parents shuffling out the door, still trying to process what had just happened. I didn't expect an apology. I didn't need one, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for them to change. I had changed. Over the next few weeks, the fallout settled. Olivia avoided me, which, honestly, was the best gift she had ever given me. She was furious, of course. I heard from a few mutual acquaintances that she had been ranting about me to anyone who would listen. She thinks she's so much better than me just because she got some money. It's pathetic. Whatever, she can have her stupid house, she's still alone. I don't even care about what she did. I have real things to worry about. Which was hilarious, considering she couldn't stop talking about me. The family, meanwhile, was confused. They had spent so long believing Olivia's version of events that it was genuinely difficult for them to reframe the narrative. Some of them reached out, awkwardly trying to stay neutral. I let them. I wasn't interested in proving anything anymore. And my parents? They didn't bring Olivia up when they called. And that, more than anything, told me they knew. They knew they had enabled her. They knew they had dismissed me. And they knew I wasn't going to play along anymore. One afternoon, about a month later, I was sitting on my new patio, sipping coffee and enjoying the quiet, when my phone buzzed. A message from Olivia. "We need to talk." I stared at the screen, debating for a moment before typing back a simple, "Why?" It took her a few minutes to respond. I don't want things to be like this forever." I exhaled slowly, letting her words settle. The old me, the one who always bent, always tried to mend things first, would have jumped at the opportunity. But I had spent years watching Olivia twist apologies into weapons. So instead, I typed out my response carefully. "Neither do I, but I'm not interested in going back to the way things were. If you want to talk, really talk, you need to start by taking responsibility. Otherwise, there's nothing to say." I hit send, and then I put my phone down. I didn't wait for her response. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting on Olivia at all. I was just moving forward,